3, our weekly Fukushima update for you. And I hope you pay attention. Your lives are literally on the line here. Not overnight, you're not going to drop dead tomorrow morning, but in the next 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see cancer rates go up and up and up, and tragically, many of them will be in young people. And if you're still eating anything out of the Pacific Ocean, you ought to have your head examined. It's over, dear friends. It's over. You don't eat anything out of the Pacific Ocean. You look at the lies we've reported on for years, how scientists will say anything but radiation. Oh, domoic acid, algae blooms, global warming, it's too hot, viruses in the ocean, bacteria in the ocean. No, it's radioactivity and over 200 radionuclides. We only talk about a few of them. Fukushima is producing just a bonanza of things that are being flushed into the ocean, dumped into the ocean around the clock. They haven't dumped formally all those storage tanks. That's coming soon. I think they're sneaking them out. Meanwhile, in most all Japan urban areas, major cities, even medium-sized cities where they have their municipal incinerators for trash burning, they're still burning radioactive material. And that's going up in the air, coming down on them, and crossing the Pacific. We get Beijing smog over here. Some of you may not realize that. Used to be, I remember when they get big sandstorms on the Gobi Desert, you could see some of it come across at the higher altitudes. It's smog now, all the time from Beijing. But you can't see it, but it's there. If you go up in an airplane and you look at the horizon, wherever you are, you'll see a brown haze. Turn your head sideways, you can see it clearly. That's poison. That's smog. No, it's not chemtrails. It's smog. It's petrochemical poison. With us this first half hour, Yoshi Shimatsu, with us for years and years now, heading on our 5th year. How are you, Yoshi? What's up?
Well, okay. We've had a lot of news out here in Asia, as you mentioned, in China, the Tianjin blast. A lot of chemicals released there.
Yeah.
Blast at a army base in Japan where there's not supposed to be anything in storage there. Blast at actually a lot of chemical plants. It's very hot out here now.
Yeah.
And, you get things like particles of dust and all that. They get highly volatile, electrified. You have these typhoons coming in. But what seems to be driving it all is the increased radiation in our atmosphere.
Yes.
In other words, there's radioactivity everywhere. There's been so much nuclear bomb testing alone, and then all the power stations releasing, radionucleotides in the water, atmosphere, atmospheric releases. And of course, Fukushima just is like totally all of that combined. So I think, this whole electrification of the atmosphere, and just this morning I was looking at a story on this sort of blue light in the evening over California, a strange, eerie glow. And I've been talking a long time about the atmospheric effects, electromagnetic effects of radiation, highly volatile, highly reactive stuff, highly, highly energized stuff. So the atmosphere is just fried, and we're seeing these massive typhoons. And I've noticed these massive typhoons either coming due west because the current now is circled all the way around the Pacific now. And they slam into Philippines and Taiwan, or they veer up toward Japan, toward Fukushima.
Sure.
This time we have 2 of them on parallel course. One of them is going to be a direct hit. The first one, Goni is going to be a direct hit on Sendai nuclear power plant. That's the Mitsubishi steam generator plant there, which is just got started up about 2 weeks ago. That's going to take a direct hit, and this is amid this volcano watch. Sakurajima is 35 miles away, 50 kilometers away, and it's on the path of this typhoon. So besides this underground activity and the storm activity, you have this added intensity, you might call it, catalyst of radiation energy, radioactive energy, just all over Japan. And in that area, now that they got that nuclear plant up, it's sort of like a magnet.
Sure.
And again, you don't have to tear that plant apart with with volcanic lava or pyroclastic flow, or with a tornado, tsunami, the tornado force of a tsunami. All you got to do is knock the power supply out, knock down a critical power line, or knock out a few transformers with lightning, have a blackout at the plant. The plant pumps can't work. The emergency generators go haywire, like we saw at Fukushima. Stuxnet is still rumbling around, improved versions of it in computer systems. As soon as any kind of power plant system goes down, Stuxnet will slip right in there and shut down all the power supply, knock out all the switches. So basically, when you have a combination of an imminent volcanic explosion, major alert, happening, all kinds of movement underground there nearby, and a direct hit with tsunami, well, what can I say? Have we been warned? Have we not been warned? The other thing in the news is, this is not exactly newest news, but Mark Schreiber, he's a columnist for Japan Time, long time, very fluent in Japanese, well-read in Japanese. Keeps track of all the magazines and sports tablets. Most of our leaks do not come from the mainstream press.
Not anymore.
Tabloid press.
Yeah,
they can just slip out a piece of news. You see it on the newsstands for half an hour before they sold out. And, all the serious journalists, we consider those things, and people in the political class consider those. But this is from a more, upstream magazine talking about Shinzo Abe. His bleed has been for about a year and a half, nearly 2 years now, bleeding from every orifice.
Okay, now Shinzo Abe is the
Prime Minister of Japan.
He's the PM of Japan. He's
nuclear bomb.
He's still wanting to win World War II. Okay,
Two. I mean, 3 has yet to begin. He's still doing the mop-up action with Fukushima in World War II. A diehard, because he's like, one of those last Japanese soldiers they find on these islands occasionally. Yeah. A guy who thinks, he's sort of like that. He won't quit. He's not a quitter. He's a diehard. And for a couple of years now, they've been covering up that he routinely is coughing up blood. Blood is coming out of other orifices of his,
How do we know this? How do we know this? Who's been yapping?
Doctors leaking. Apparently, the Prime Minister's office behind their desk is
okay.
And there's a doctor assigned there full time in case he starts, hemorrhaging again.
Okay. Now you know what this means, folks. Tell them what it means.
Well, according to the NIH, that's the National Institutes of Health, who they pull their punches, but they say in case of nuclear radiation exposure, like in nuclear plant accident, one of the commonest signs, one of the sure signs of radiation poisoning, of high exposure, high levels of radiation, is bleeding from your orifices, bleeding out of your mouth and out of the other end also, And then it does tremendous gastrointestinal destruction, causes ulcers, ulceration, basically very hard to cure. Use drugs or steroids. It doesn't help, as we know, on the ulcers on skin. The older people got those. I treated them with citronella oil and other things to cure them there. Ulcers won't close due to conventional medicine. So basically, he's been dying for about a year and a half. He's on his way out. And I was just in Beijing, right at the time of Tianjin. That's a huge explosion. I wrote about how that initial blast in Tianjin, which was unseen, could not be smelled, could not be heard, knocked people back, inside buildings, it knocked people back. There was a similar bomb on a ship heading to Norway at the time of King Harold, not a coronation, but his, where they anoint him, basically, with his queen in Trondheim. A ship vaporized out there. People should read this story.
When was this?
Not nonsense. Because this is part of my research during the subway gathering. I talked to people in the shipping company that occurred to terrorist attack. Later on in my staff, it wasn't much later when I heard about this report. I said, "My gosh, this is outrageous." The Japanese car carrier. They find a device inside the hood. Norwegian engineer is sent over from another ship, a passing Norwegian freighter. He's given authorization to open the device, and the ship vaporizes in the North Atlantic. It just completely no sound, with a big flash of light, very sunlight, but no sound at all, and the ship was gone. No major wave, just like a blast of air went rushing by, but that's it. This actually occurred. I write about maybe why it occurred and all that. So it was a major terrorist attack. Shinzo Abe was involved with it, of course. Asahara, his guru at Om Shinriko, said there's a device, a super weapon that fits in the hood of a car. He said this after this event. One of my staffers picked that up. Police leaked that to me also, that there had been he mentioned this device. Very similar. It's called a Procyon, Procyon, invented by the Russian nuclear scientist, physicist Andrei Sakharov, very famous guy, Nobel laureate and all that.
Yeah.
He invented this non-nuclear device. It meant all the electromagnetic and electric power.
Well, what was it? What's it? Yoshi, what's it made of? Yeah. Red mercury? What is it?
No. It's a Tesla coil, but what you do is you wrap that coil, build up a huge charge in there, massive charge over time. But you wrap it, you implode it like a nuclear weapon. You implode that thing, and in a billionth of a second, it lets off this massive blast of energy. It basically electrifies the whole atmosphere, and it goes out in a massive shockwave. So this really, I was in China looking inside their studio there and looking at some of the raw tape coming out. I thought, this big smoke and fire that came afterwards. The fires kept burning up later, but the initial blast. If you notice the story about the Chinese fireman that they found 3 days later, that they said he wasn't poisoned. They're surprised. There's all the smoke and all that. Yeah. He wasn't poisoned. This just goes to show that the internal blast area, where the blast actually occurred, there's nothing left there. Everything's vaporized. Yeah. And especially the chemicals are all gone. Yeah. So what we see is the after effects, okay? What happened, let's say, 3 to 5 minutes later when the chemical plant, starts exploding and blowing up that energy. So, again, it's probably an act of war, the start of World War III. Shinzo Abe is dying, and as many dying dictators will do, they'll try to bring down the whole house with them, the whole world with them. So,
false,
right? Suicide.
False flag?
Yeah.
False flag?
Pardon?
What was it, a false flag?
No, it was probably a Japanese operation.
Yeah, that's what I mean, against themselves.
No. This was in China. This was 2 days before his...
Yeah, but I'm talking about, okay, all right, ultimately it's not going to help them. All right, that's the point.
Yeah, well, basically, I remember this stuff from my reporting days. Boy, I've seen something like this before. It struck me, this hollow center. I've seen exactly the same thing. I know the name of the weapon. We did all the research. It is linked to Shinzo Abe's group in Asahara, Om Shinriko. And we know where they procured it, in Ekaterinburg, Russia, from Oleg Lobov, who ran the weapons complex, the ultimate security advisor. So we see weapon of mass destruction. One was tested at the Redstone Testing Center down in Biloxi, Mississippi. U.S. Army knows all about it because they purchased one and tested it, and it worked. Okay, so it's
when is it? What's the time frame on this?
91 was when the Japanese car carrier was blown up, was vaporized off the Norwegian coast. 1991. Wow. Massive security alert. It was all hushed up because of the coronation. Many VIPs from across Europe were there. They were obviously targeted. So Shinzo Abe is a killer. He wanted to kill all the royals of, Scandinavia.
What a nice guy. Jeez.
Yeah, this guy is vicious. He's very vicious. Won't apologize for the war. Because he's basically, he's a maniac. He's a mass murdering maniac. And that's his dream before he dies. And, by the way, when I was in Beijing, one of the news anchors said there, just casually, talking about him, he said, well, don't worry about Abe. He's not going to be around for another term as prime minister. This is what they said in China. Don't worry about Abe. He's not going to be around for another term. He's a goner. So basically, the man is dying. And now what I found out is that when he started living like this, what was he doing right before then? He was visiting the Fukushima area. He was in Soma, right north of Fukushima, eating the food, saying it's safe. And then other parts of Fukushima, he made a tour of Fukushima. And every stop he says, I eat Fukushima rice every day because it keeps me healthy.
It sure did a good job.
I eat Fukushima rice every day. Now, the man is, like I say, bleeding from every orifice. Uncontrollably. He can't, he has to go to the bathroom apparently every 5 minutes. Hard for him to hold a speech. That's why his sessions are so, he just walks in and walks out. You can't.
I got it. Yeah.
He's in dire shape. He's dying. He's a victim of his own system, we might call, of his own belief.
Do we think he actually was eating Fukushima rice every day?
Well, he had to on TV.
Oh.
Yeah, and
great.
Press conferences,
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time in the northern areas to get their support because they're very conservative areas, conservative rural areas, giving money to farmers to grow rice that they dumped or tried to dump in Africa, things like that. Remember all the rice that they had?
Yeah, sure.
Even the Africans, people in Nepal rejected the rice. Yeah, they're trying to dump the rice all over the world. He was the one eating it. Okay, one of the few people eating, dumb enough to eat it.
Well, they had some young people who were eating it too, which was really made me sick. I remember that.
That's terrible. Well, they had no choice. They're putting it in the school system's lunch. Hopefully they'll just toss it out. I'm sure many of them just found a way to toss it somewhere.
Well, they had to. It's just horrible.
Yeah, they had to.
It's murder. Let's tell it what it is, like it is.
Well, in this case, it's suicide. He believes in his own propaganda.
Well, he's an idiot.
That's the problem with people like this. I mean, he believes in it. He's a fanatic. He believes in his own propaganda. Now he's got a death sentence. He's dying.
How much of this is in the Japanese media? Speculative.
He comes to China for this parade. So it's been in a couple of Japanese presses. I think Japan Today has it online in English.
Is anybody saying he's sick, though? That's my question.
Yeah, doctors are. They're saying he's sick. He's terribly sick. Yeah.
All right.
But they're not linking it to the food issue. I mean, right before his really serious downturn, the real serious bleeding, he had before colitis and all that. That's well known.
Yeah.
We're talking about terminal case, where he's just constant bleeding, and so he can't go to public events and stand outside. Like he was invited to come to China to see this military parade.
Well, he'll be in a diaper pretty soon if he can still stand up.
He probably already is. I'm sure he's already in the diapers. There's no doubt about it. But it's really a
look, now that same thing is going to happen over here over a longer period of time to more and more Americans and Canadians.
Ingestion. You can't.
It's called bioaccumulation. It will stay in there and it'll start to tear you up.
That's right. Boy, I really miss sushi. I love this stuff. I only eat it. I mean, you know that, Jeff, since Fukushima.
Yeah.
I just said,
you can't do it.
It's a certain distance.
You'd be dying right now or dead if you'd have kept eating sushi.
I'd be dead by now. Yeah. I don't eat Japanese rice. I don't drink the sake. I don't take any of the food. I drink foreign water in Japan.
God.
And I'm just afraid. I hope people in Japan, now the West Coast, Alaska. And speaking of Alaska, these people are dependent on seafood in a place where the whales are going belly up.
30 whales.
About, a billion needlefish floating down the river. The rivers are full of dead needlefish.
And 3 oarfish off Southern California, 3 of those giant oarfish, and they said they were still alive when they floated up and the flesh was falling off of them.
Yeah, the combination of San Onofre, whatever they dump there, whatever the military dumps there, and then on top of that, the California current of the contains there. The fish don't have a chance, the birds don't have a chance. I mean, I told you, I took radiation measurement of the feces, from the crows. Oh, my gosh. I never felt sorry for crows before. I took the readings of these birds. They're on the verge. They're not going to be able, their eggs aren't going to hatch. It's far gone. This thing is far gone. And, the effects I think people should read the Abe story to understand the seriousness of what happens in advanced cases, terminal cases, of these ulceration of the stomach. There's no cure for that. You can't turn it around, you know. Now, maybe there is if you take the herbals, but boy, that's a hard, long process. You know, I'm glad to help people, but most people do not have the
discipline to do it,
the gumption.
No.
Yeah, because you have to really do it every day.
Do you know in California, because of this man-made drought, parts of California, Yoshi, have sunk over a foot in 8 months?
Yeah.
Not foot.
Surprising. I mean, the groundwater was gone already. Now the Sierra Nevada, which feeds these aquifers and the groundwater, you know, water under the water table, the snow's gone. You know, radiation is just melting the snow.
Okay, so we got a foot gone in 8 months. Yeah. Let's call it 16 inches in a year. You do that, 2 years is 32 inches. How many buildings, how many freeway overpasses, how many structural infrastructure items are going to be impacted by that?
Unstable, basically it. Wherever there's an underground stream or something, an underground pond, you know, that is going to be air underneath there. You know, the sinking is the good part. The good news is the ones that sink. The bad news are the sinkholes. The ones that don't sink right away, but suddenly open up, like you see in Florida. The same problem. Louisiana, these sinkholes.
Yeah,
that hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. You know, a sudden collapse, and there's no way out of there, man. A building goes in there, you are finished. You know, you can't survive a building dropping like, 18, 20, 30 feet. You know, so everything inside gets crushed and banged up. So
No.
I don't know. You know, the world, the northern hemisphere at least, and much of the equator now with these typhoons is in deep trouble. We're seeing record, and these people that, these guys in the government and NOAA, the weather service, who lamely talk about El Nino, global warming. This stuff wasn't supposed to happen for another 2 centuries. Come on, This happened within 5 years of Fukushima. So let's get real, folks. As much as anyone realizes that we've got too much carbon in the atmosphere, that carbon isn't causing this massive turnaround in our atmosphere, in our seas, this whole kill-off, all this destruction that's going on. And the electromagnetic side, like I said, we haven't really seen, let's say a typhoon, lightning coming down and hitting a volcano. I mean, it may be happening in the next day or two, okay, over Japan, where we actually do get to see some serious fireworks. And who knows? And there's a nuclear plant right in between that, sandwiched right in between, and it's turned on,
Very smart.
Rods are up. And we've been warning these guys. It's just like the Tokyo Electric. I wrote you a story about the one diet parliamentarian who grilled them about the mock fuel and told them it's dangerous. Who grilled them about the tsunami danger, and everyone said there is no danger. Everything is safe here. Everything is okay. In the diet, Ministry of Economy, nuclear experts. And it was all on the diet record, 2.5 years before the event happened. 4 years, actually, before. Repeatedly raised.
Yeah.
So, people don't want to hear the warning.
No, you told them. We told them nothing else. Yeah. We told them nothing else we can do. Nothing. We can just tell them. That's all we can do.
Planning the wind and getting the whirlwind for sure. I mean, this is. I don't know what to say anymore because I think the North Pacific. It's just a. I don't know what you call it. Kill off, death zone, extermination. It's just a huge extermination tank right now. I feel sorry for these animals. I would love to move some of them somewhere safe, if we can find a safe place to see the survivors that aren't totally genetically damaged.
Right.
But that takes money. That takes effort. Environmental movement.
Oh, okay. You can't move a huge whale, for God's sakes. Almost, no.
Well, there might be a way with an aircraft carrier. You tow it behind it.
30 whales dead off one Alaskan island. 30 whales dead.
Yeah.
What's that tell you? Told you they just overdosed on bioaccumulative radionuclides, and they died.
Well, there's no other explanation. All the plankton there is radioactive. All the kelp, all the seaweed, everything. The bottom of the food chain is completely radioactive. We saw that, started to see that within 6 months, right? Less than that. I think it was September. Yeah, September after March. Yeah. So 6 months after Fukushima, I was by the shore of Japan, and I was saying, I've seen, all kinds of dead invertebrates here. Tough guys from down below. A good circulatory system. They're gasping for breath on the shore. And
exactly.
We saw it coming. We saw it. It's there. Handwriting was down the wall. This was neon light. Neon signs on the wall.
Yeah.
That this is a major extinction event coming. And these guys are mumbling something about global warming. I mean, give me a break. And where is the environmental movement? Where is that billion?
I haven't seen one environmental group taking a stand on this, a logical, honest stand yet.
No.
They're all controlled.
Even Greenpeace has been wishing little stabs, stabbing their little spoon into the teacup. No one's picking up that teacup. I mean, this is a massive disaster. And guess what, folks? The guy that you believe, Shinzo Abe, the head of the nuclear establishment in Japan, the heir, his grandfather created the nuclear establishment. He's dying of radiation poisoning. Now, are you going to believe this man, or are you going to wake up? Because if you believe him, you're going to die horribly like he's dying. And believe me, you don't want to spend the last years of your life sitting on the toilet washing blood. Okay?
He knows.
You don't want to spend. That's really, they call a crappy way to die. Huh?
Yeah. Huh? He knows exactly what happened, too, now. He can't deny it. He knows. He's not stupid. He's an idiot, but he's not stupid.
I mean, these people, he's basically, I've always said, he's a psychological case. He's a psycho, he's a wacko, and he's in denial. So you can put it.
Do you think he's still in denial right now? Well.
Yeah. He can say, "I'll be well soon. I will be well soon. I will be well." I mean, this is until his last dying breath, he'll believing that nuclear is great, that he needs radiation therapy and so on and so forth.
Oh God!
These people are fools. So Japan. They call it the planet of the apes, this is what they put. When everything turns into its opposite, it's the planet of the apes. Yeah. And that's what we're living in Japan. And unfortunately, the United States. And the other thing I want to say about this is I think Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, should get out of Japan yesterday. I think the State Department, the White House, Obama, if he's got 1 inch of compassion, 1 ounce of compassion in his heart, I don't want to see another Kennedy get it. We've had enough dead Kennedys. I don't want to feel politically about them. But if that family has taken enough hits, made enough sacrifice, she shouldn't have to die like this. And she will die like this if she stays there. She's got to get out. So I appeal to the Kennedy family, to the State Department, get the ambassador out of there, get on the first flight out of there, and take buts, ifs, or maybe. Life is precious, and no one wants to end up, sitting in front of a curtain with a dock behind you 24 hours a day. Imagine when that curtain opens, what has to be done.
No. All right, Yoshi, thank you. Talk to you next week.
Right.
You take care.
Yeah. Okay, very good then.
Okay.
And, good luck to you over there.
All righty, good night. Okay, Yoshi Shimatsu, and standing by to step right in is Dr. Richard Wilcox, who lives in Tokyo. Richard, you were listening in there. What about Shinzo Abe dying of radioactive poisoning?
Yeah, I listened to your conversation with Yoichi. I read that article in Japan Times, and I really don't know. I mean, apparently he has some disease which causes some illnesses, but whether Yoichi's right about that or not, I won't speculate, because it's just one of those.
Well, you don't want to get in trouble.
Intimate situations. Yeah. Well, I think I've gone beyond that, because thank you. I just checked the website and you posted my new article, which was inspired. Am I talking too loud? Maybe because I'm 7,000 miles away. I feel like I should be shouting or something across the ocean. That's a teacher's bad habit.
We have something called electronics. It's okay.
That's good. We're up into the 21st century.
Not all of us.
Thank you for posting no, not all of us. Maybe it's better to go back, actually. But thanks for posting the new article, which was inspired from our conversation last week, really. Sometimes these ideas just hit you out of the blue with Dana and you. And so I did put together some data from the Japanese government. It's sort of a world wrestling, competition match off here between the independent journalists versus the Japanese government's data, and comparing, what's the truth about the situation, and you get two really different stories. If you were to just trust the government, I mean, I don't know whoever said trust the government, but if you believe that, you're pretty naive. But if you go by their data, you wouldn't even know there was a nuclear accident, practically.
That's just about the truth. You really wouldn't. It's not there. It's just not there.
And it matters how you measure. They don't explain how they measure the radiation. I witnessed it personally, firsthand, and I know this is on the independent, on the SNS. Lots of people have discovered hot spots and things like that, and reported that through the internet. And that's, of course, one reason they don't want the internet around, or they let the cat out of the bag there. They want to control the information, because people can't be trusted. Average people can't be trusted to use their brains to figure things out. That's too dangerous. So. They've switched over. The Nuclear Regulatory Agency is now in control of the monitoring radiation in Japan. So if you click on my article, it's at the top there. It's called Radioactive Chaos. Thank you again for putting that up there, Jeff. Then all of the links are in there, and readers can just compare. What do they think? There's Fukushima Diary, who is who is this young, gentle engineer with a cat, versus the Japanese government, and Shinzo Abe, who's, I guess according to Yoichi, that trouble may be over soon. I don't know, but I don't ever wish anybody ill. But
he is apparently quite ill. So
yeah. I mean, I don't.
Yoichi has not been wrong about anything yet. So I got to stick with him on that.
Well, he gets information that's unbelievable, and then if I ever want to figure something out, I email him and say, "What's up with this?" And he gives me a plausible explanation, which it's not always necessarily. Everybody's putting the pieces together to figure things out. But he's a good source, and he has this kind of inside information that a lot of us can't get to. So, but at any rate, the whole Abe administration agenda is what's so disturbing, and this, as we know well, after the last couple of years since the LDP election, when Abe was elected, and he switched everything to move away from renewable energy towards restarting the nuclear reactors and so on. And so when he did that, he clamped down on the government and on the media, and he appointed people in charge of, like, NHK, who were sympathetic to his agenda, and then they passed the law, the secrets law, saying, if you criticize the government for something, maybe we'll, have to check you out, and just a real vague threat. I think it's in the spirit of many of the things that have happened under Obama, all of these executive orders, and Bush before him, but I mean, the Patriot Act and all that. I mean,
sure it is.
These utterly anti-democratic, just, repugnant, agendas. We're going to a break, I guess.
Okay, back with Dr. Richard Wilcox, who is in Tokyo right now. And Richard, as you said last time, the sushi restaurants are busy. Everybody's just acting normally, which is bizarre.
Yeah, they're just see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, like those monkeys. The famous temple.
Yeah,
in
don't
Nikko,
worry, be
which is
happy.
not far
Of
from
course.
here.
Yeah.
It's symbolic. And I go over this in my article. As I usually do, I kind of mention that the media control, well, as I mentioned in the last segment, I believe, as we've known, the control over the media, that they can't mention radiation. I mean, they never mention the media. If I told this to someone recently, and they bristled with resentment against me personally, which was that there's radiation in the drinking water, and it was as if I was spreading a rumor, but in fact that is admitted by the Japanese government at the a website. So they do admit a certain amount of truth to come out, but that data does not circulate in the media at all, and of course, and the average people are not aware of it. So then they just go on as normal, and eating sushi. That's something I don't do anymore. So, or eating anything out of the ocean, it's very suspicious.
Well, you can't. You got a family. You just can't. Now,
yeah.
Are you hearing any talk about people moving out of the country to Brazil, because that deal has been made? I'm not sure if it's actually ongoing right now, but are you hearing anything about people leaving?
Not specifically that, although of course you did tell me that last week, and I didn't know about that specifically, but about this Brazilian deal. But I have heard over the last couple of years that Japanese corporations were sort of offshoring, or just in case they're moving their headquarters to Myanmar or someplace like this. But I think it is true, just to kind of connect that idea. A friend of mine who runs a business in Tokyo said he noticed that since the accident in 2011, that the number of subscribers to a particular newsletter had gone down substantially, which kind of indicated that maybe it wasn't only because of Fukushima, but in general the economy and so on. But it does seem that among foreigners, people are dwindling. The number of foreigners are dwindling, and whether Japanese people are planning to move out or not, I haven't heard anything like that. But yeah, if they're the richer ones,
I don't know how they cannot be.
The rich ones go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff.
No, that's all right. The deal in Brazil is as much room as needed will be made available.
Right. I'm looking for any new exciting experiences in my life. I'm always in life. You have to be, prepared for whatever comes your way. And although it's very just difficult for people to adjust and to change. And once they have roots down and everything like that, it's hard to change. So, but the situation in Japan is that, especially in Fukushima, those are the people that got the brunt of the radiation, but it spread around the country. And there was just an article at Fukushima Diary, which said there was a vacuum cleaner with 80 becquerels per kilogram of dust from the last 3 months, and that was in Tokyo.
Okay,
and so that makes you wonder, gee,
right. How bad is that, Richard?
Yeah.
How bad is that?
That's terrible. 80 becquerels per kilogram, and so that means it's circulating in the air. You're breathing it, you're touching it. Now that's just one case, and I write about this at the beginning of the article so people can look at that. In 2011, it was much higher, so it has gone down. But the idea that people are still living and breathing and walking around as I am with radiation, that's really disturbing, fact. And that's not monitored by the government. They've done a really dishonest job of covering the way they measure the radiation and the reporting of it. I'm not saying they're lying necessarily, but they choose how to where to measure that they know they'll get the result they want. So if they want to get a low result, then they go there and measure. And, it's just astonishing because at the Fukushima port, according to TEPCO, almost daily there's no detection of radiation in the port, and yet we know all these recent news stories of like billions of becquerels being dumped out and fish being caught with massive radiation.
Oh, huge.
So where is this radiation going? I mean, either there's a strong current taking it away, or they're intentionally, fraudulently falsifying the data. So I just let people decide for themselves what they think about that. But
Right.
There's a real contradiction between what we know in our minds and hearts and our intuition and instincts versus what the media tells us. Well, the media doesn't tell us anything, and what the government reports, if you know even where to go to find that information.
It's really been pushed way back, and it's almost not there anymore, correct?
Yeah, that's the idea. That was their agenda, correct. Push it back, way back. And it's almost now, if you talk about it, you're kind of like a little weird, like, ooh, is that a conspiracy theory? Or I mean, when it happened, people were really...
Did anybody hassle you at the university? Did anybody hassle you at school because of what you're saying and trying to instruct the students about?
Very good. A couple of years ago, people were very supportive, and it was positive. Then other teachers became burnt out on the issue, and one even told me, well, something like, if you don't like it, leave, or something, which that's probably good advice, really. But in other words, you don't have a right to complain if you're going to stay here. But I mean, that doesn't make sense. But as far as being, fired or anything like that, no. But they do censor the issue in the journals, and I tried to write about it, and they wouldn't publish anything on that, which was just outrageous. And I mean, nobody reads those journals anyways. I just did that because I write about these things, and but they get grant money from the government, and the government's tied in with the nuclear industry, so the universities are just, hiding the issue. But a lot of the students are pretty aware. Some of the higher level science students are pretty aware, and they're not necessarily pro-nuclear. There's a few that are, but so it is possible if you're instructing the wrong people that were in positions of power, they would try to get you out of there. So, but I'm a kind of a small fish to fry.
You're ignorable. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, do you hear does the death of the Pacific Ocean, does the dying of sea life all along the West Coast, does that make the Japanese media?
Nothing. No consciousness. I mean, in the East Coast of the U.S., people don't even know about it, because I know people in the East Coast. There's no, I think there are probably the occasional stories that mention, die-offs, but not in a context or as a pattern. And, usually, like, say, in the Japan Times or something like that, it would be about global warming, and everything's, that whole global warming religion, that's what they believe in, and that's it. But, Yoichi was talking about global warming, and I've been studying that more recently as well, and it just seems crazy to me that there are hundreds of factors involved in the climate, and only CO2, which is one very minor element in that equation, would be the cause of global warming, and then humans are even a tiny percentage of that element. So, and yet for that tiny point to be latched onto by the media and just promoted, and then they've done it for so long that people just kind of accept it and they don't analyze it scientifically. So, and then the global warming thing is used to promote nuclear power, and they say, well, nuclear power may be a little dangerous, but because global warming is going to kill billions of people, we have to make a compromise, so we need to keep promoting nuclear power. So not only is global warming a distraction for, a kind of catch-all to blame the ocean deaths on that or whatever. And when we're saying global warming, we're talking about human-caused global warming, of course, but or it's used to promote the nuclear industry. But wow, that went fast. But
well, it did. Go ahead, finish
the
up.
Ocean death, the ocean die-offs. I mean, there's so many questions about that need to be answered, and the media and the scientists are not addressing that at all, as far as I can tell.
No, there's nothing going on
you,
here.
Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much.
You take care.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, you take care. Goodbye.
All righty. Good night. Dr. Richard Wilcox, and there's our update. The center at the top